From the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, this is Spark. cbc.ca/spark.
Okay, so you've done the dating song and dance, and your love is more, how shall we say it, comfortable. A great date night can be as low-key as curling up on the couch next to your sweetheart and watching TV. Until the buzzing starts, that is.
I'm sitting on the couch in the evening watching a TV show, and I reach for my BlackBerry, and my husband says, "No, stop, don't touch it."
Ah, yes, the BlackBerry, the romance buzzkill of the 21st century. You think your spouse is reaching over to give your thigh a squeeze, but they're really just reaching for that BlackBerry to check email while you snuggle. Grrr. We've been talking a bit about love and technology on today's show, and that's where Catherine Middleton comes in.
Yes, my name's Catherine Middleton. I'm a Canada Research Chair in Communication Technologies in the Information Society at Ryerson University.
Catherine researches the behavior of BlackBerry users. She looks at how the popular smartphone changes the way people work and how it influences the way some people treat their loved ones when they've got email, the internet, and a phone with them at all times.
And then you hear stories of people going on vacation. So one that I was told was a couple who went to Hawaii, and it was meant to be far away from the rest of the world. They were on their own, they were together, but he'd taken his BlackBerry. And so it was driving her nuts because he kept, on this pleasant romantic time together, he kept grabbing at his hip, looking at his BlackBerry, checking his email, until they went to have a photo taken, and he said there were big signs everywhere that said, "Don't stand near the surf, waves will come in and wash over you."
Right.
So he was standing against the surf, his wife was taking a picture, and a wave came and washed his BlackBerry away, which she was delighted about, as you might imagine.
And so is that the primary thing that you're seeing, is that blurring of the line between home life and work life, or social life and work life?
That's certainly a lot of it, I think. So the example that I've just given you, I'm sure that guy, before having a BlackBerry, would have found ways he would have been calling back into the office. So what the BlackBerry or other smartphones do is make it easier, because it's this nice little mobile device. It fits in your pocket, it fits in your purse. Your work life starts flooding in to your palm. And then, the issue is the context. So it might be that in the past you wouldn't have done it while you were sitting at dinner. Right. But now you do. So people tell stories of going out on dates with people, sort of first date, and the person they're sitting with pulls out the BlackBerry. and now it depends on the person that they're with, because we do find in some instances where both people in a couple have BlackBerries, that's okay. Because when one person pulls theirs out, the other one does. So there can be less tension if both partners have a BlackBerry. And in some cases, people have said, well, I finally broke down and got my wife one, and things are going better now. She likes the fact she can get me. I'm available. We're available to each other.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is that you might have complained if your spouse or loved one was a bit of a workaholic, but it's this sort of character of kind of partial presence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what people will say is, isn't this great? I can come home because you're complaining I'm not home very much. So what would have happened some time ago, 10, 15 years ago, was instead of coming home and continuing to work, you would have stayed in the office and kept working there. So your partner might have been annoyed that you weren't home, but at least you weren't bringing the work into the home. Now what happens is that you say, I'm home, I'm here for you, but you're not really. It's this idea, as you say, partial presence, absent presence.
In your research, do people who use these devices, do they see that as a downside, this blurring of work and home?
The people who use them will swear up and down that this is better, that they can be at the baseball game, they can be at their kids' soccer game, they can be in these places that they couldn't have been before.
Right.
And yeah, I agree with that. There's certainly some validity in that. But I think what they don't fully understand is the way that the people they're with interpret this. So the person with the device thinks they're doing the right thing. They're trying their best. They're saying, look, you've complained about work-life balance. I'm trying to be here. But it's not perfect.
Is this sort of applicable to all smartphones, or is there something about BlackBerries in particular that...
Yeah, we've looked mainly at business users, and business users tend still, and it's changing a bit, but they tend still to be BlackBerry users. But there are a couple of things about the BlackBerry in particular, I think, about the way it's designed. So it's designed that it's a push email system. So what that means is that you don't really have to do anything. The default setting is that the email comes into your device without you pressing any buttons or anything. So it means if you've just got on its standard setting, it'll start to buzz and a light will flash when something's on your email. Now, you don't know who it's from, and there's this sort of sense of anticipation or excitement. It might be from your long-lost buddy asking if you want to go and have a beer. It might be from your boss with something urgent. You don't know that. So there's this real impetus, I think, to grab for it and look at it. People talk about it as kind of a Pavlovian response, that they see this thing, they see the little red light flashing, and they know that they can turn that off. So you can adjust these settings, but people often don't. There's something about the way it's designed. So take an iPhone as an example. It doesn't have the same kind of notification. And there seems also to be a slightly different expectation around responsiveness. So if somebody knows you have a BlackBerry, they know, because this is how most people use them, they know it's likely to be on your hip or in your purse. They know it's probably going to buzz when they get your email. And so they have a pretty good sense, person who sent you something, that you've received it.
Right.
And they also know if you don't reply within the next 5 or 10 minutes that you've sort of said, oh, you're not that important, it doesn't matter to me. So there's this real sense of expectation.
A friend of mine with a psychology background says it's like intermittent reinforcement.
Yeah,
where
it is.
It's the most sort of addictive thing when you...
Absolutely. Yeah. And you get sucked into the exchanges.
Yeah. Still, I mean, I have a BlackBerry and I don't sleep with it under my pillow.
Yeah,
I think
good.
I have a pretty good sense of work-life balance. Is there something about a personality type that might be more likely to develop that kind of overuse?
Yeah, we haven't, our research doesn't go into the psychology of it because that's not where my background is. But certainly, I don't think that the BlackBerry or other smartphones cause this behavior. So the person who I told you about in Hawaii was going to be looking for ways to work regardless. So what the smartphone does is just makes it a lot easier. And one of the things that's interesting now is that several people talk about cleaning out their email. So a person will sit down at 11 o'clock at night and just go through what's in their inbox and get it off their plate. So it's the idea that I can get rid of something. But what's happening is a spillover effect. So I do that. I finish my email. I send something to you, and you get done your BlackBerry at 11:30, and then you decide you're going to respond. Now, lots of people don't, but there's this sense, the person, I wasn't intending for you to respond. I just wanted to move it to someone else. But maybe it is you're just sitting there watching TV. The show isn't that great. Something comes in. It's easy enough to look at. So part of it is not, I think part of it is not that there's an intense desire to work. It's just, well, here it is. It's sitting on my lap. It comes in. I can take care of this really simply, and I'm done.
And, I mean, the reality, I think, for a lot of people is that the line between work and home life is already blurred, and there are some expectations of working on the weekend or whatever, and so it can easily, and it does help keep you organized around those tasks. So you can see how it tends to happen.
And a lot of people will say, I choose to do this. I don't have to do it on the weekend, but I'd much rather spread the work out. So I will have to do this, whether it's 120 emails in my inbox on Monday morning or whether I just deal with them as they come in over the weekend. So I think that speaks to the nature of our work. And certainly I think with or without a BlackBerry, we see more and more people working on weekends. I get emails now from administrative staff at the university on the weekend, late at night, that I wouldn't have a few years ago because that wasn't part of their job, and it's still not really part of their job. But for whatever reason, they're choosing to do the work at that particular time of day or night.
You know, I mean, we've had cell phones for decades and smartphones for years.
Yeah.
Do you think it's now too late to rewrite the social norms around this, or is this just the new normal?
People question it. So I think people are even in the last few years, are starting to question more their practices. So people will say, yes, this is what I'm doing, but maybe I don't need to. So there's more sense of the person working at 11 o'clock at night that they really don't need to. They really don't expect a response, but it just suits them. But if you think about things like being in meetings, we are hearing from more people that there are more explicit policies or statements at beginnings of meetings asking people to switch the devices off. More people will say, and I'm not sure how effective this is, I put my BlackBerry face down when I come into a meeting. I think, well, the little red light is still going to flash and it's still going to buzz if you've got it set to that. But there's more discussion around, okay, we're in a meeting, we've had these things for 4 or 5 years, we've discovered over that time that if we let people use them, they just sit and do the BlackBerry prayer thing under the table where they're doing their email and they're not engaged in the meeting. It's that absent-present thing again. In some cases, people will disallow the devices, so they'll just say put them in a box at the door. In some cases, it's more of just a cultural norm.
You know, one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, Catherine, is that you've been tracking this for a while, and you've just finished some new research into BlackBerry use. What have you found?
Well, the work-life balance thing is almost shifting what we're seeing, and this is a bit odd. Some people are annoyed when their partner doesn't take the device with them. So we're seeing the work spilling into the personal, but we're also seeing some of the personal spilling back into the work. So what that means then is that if you expect that person to take the BlackBerry with them because you're using it as a personal device, they've got work in their pocket. One quote that we like, we call it the lettuce call. One guy said, my wife gets really annoyed because if I don't take my device with me, she can't call me up and say she wants me to pick up some lettuce at the supermarket. But he says, if I take it for the lettuce call, then I've got it for work.
Do you have a sense that employers or HR departments are aware of this problem, or that there might be some move towards having more formalized policies about, are you expected to answer an email that you get at 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah. It's an interesting question. We've been asking that of people that we've spoken to, and typically they've said we don't have policies now. But I don't know whether it will be formal policies or whether it will just be more the sort of cultural norms of companies that evolve around that. So I think that's one area that we may see some policies. And then the other area where we may see some policies is that whole issue of how they're used in meetings.
Right.
So, yeah.
And do you have a smartphone?
I do.
Well, thank you for not checking it during the course of the interview.
Yes.
Admirable restraint.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Catherine Middleton is a professor at Ryerson University, where she is the Canada Research Chair in Communication Technologies in the Information Society. Still ahead on Spark, sure, social media is fine for, socializing, all that tweeting and Facebooking and blogging. But could it be the key to helping businesses meet the challenges of the modern work world? And how do you convince your boss that instant messaging ought to edge out cumbersome corporate email? That's ahead.